Hey guys, welcome back to Granted Gardens. My name is Melissa, and once again, we are in a completely different setting than we usually are. One thing that I rarely, if I have ever, shared with our YouTube community is what my 9 to 5 looks like. If you hear some banging in the background, they're doing remodeling at my hotel. So there's that. So throughout the last few years of developing our YouTube channel, it has been heavily based on home and what we've been growing on our homestead. What I have not shared with you is everything that it's taken for us to be able to do that. And a big portion of that is our full-time jobs. So Tyler and I both work full-time, which can sometimes make it really hard to actually get anything accomplished from a homesteading base. But the reality is that our passion and our heart and our soul is set in homesteading. So initially when we first started homesteading, it was when we first kind of started dating. Homesteading wasn't even a part of my vocabulary. I genuinely wanted to build a garden in the backyard. I had started that a bit before we started dating, but Tyler was like a massive part of incorporating, multiple gardens. Like I had one raised bed. He is the one that helped make that expand greatly. And then from the garden standpoint, I started getting into the concept of chickens. I really wanted chickens, and that happened. And then from there, I've just continued to find these niches within homesteading that I have become just drawn to across the board. And so being a part of the homesteading community, which I'm sure most of you are, or if you're just starting your journey, know that there really is never an ending point to this journey, ever. There's always something beyond where you are. There's always the next step. There's always something else that you need to learn. So it can very easily be something that you kind of get sucked into, and without being able to pace yourself and plan accordingly, it's very easy to kind of get in over your head. So obviously we do YouTube. We do sell some of the homemade goods that we make as well, but our funding comes from our 9 to 5s. We are not making money on the concept of homesteading to the point where it's become a business at all. It is very much at this point still a hobby. Not to say that we wouldn't want that to change sometime in the future, but our 9 to 5s are what's keeping the dream alive. So I have requirements for my 9 to 5 that do fluctuate greatly. Luckily, in my current position, I do not have to travel quite nearly as much as my peers do. I oversee the DMV, like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, which is all for the most part within driving distance from home if I feel like sitting in the car for many, many hours in traffic. But I still have the option to come home every night, the majority of the time. Every once in a while I do travel. But the thing is, when I was younger and when I was starting out my career, this concept was like really intriguing to me. I had these goals of wanting to become this like really successful businesswoman and be out there in the world and traveling places and have that kind of experience and that status, if you will. It was something that was really important to me, and it was a dream of mine. I don't know, if that's really just youth talking or if, maybe I was different, I don't know, but that was what was really important to me. And I always had this concept of I wanted to be this really successful businesswoman living in the city in some high rise with a corner office, However, things have changed as I have matured, I would like to say is the term. I've realized that, home and family are really where my heart is. And that's what's my number one. Obviously, Tyler and I got married this year, so we took that next step moving forward. And as much as I love my job and I love the opportunity to be able to travel and visit new places, it does get significantly harder to do emotionally the further that it does get significantly harder to do emotionally every time that I do it. It gets a little harder. I get to the point, there's a concept where like sometimes just pulling out of the driveway is like devastating to me, especially when I have to be gone for multiple days at a time. However, there is massive, significant value in what I do, in my job, and the hurdles that it has brought to me every single day. I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly evolving, and I think that what's really great about the atmosphere that I'm in is that I have the ability to really put myself out there and put myself in uncomfortable positions and maneuver my way through it on a daily basis. I am learning. So some things that I've pulled from this work environment, number one, first and foremost, is resourcefulness, and independence. And these are two things that I have developed greatly from within myself over the last 10 years in my work environment that have directly correlated with my success and ability to be able to homestead and have that independence in that lifestyle as well. Oftentimes I find myself where I need to make a decision, and the decision needs to be made now as to, what direction I'm going to move in to make sure that everyone that's involved in this situation, to the most of my ability, profits from it. And so that is something that I take with me into the homesteading realm of my life, making sure that we're always kind of taking that next step. We're always making the right move at the right time, and we're not getting in over our head. Also, another thing that I've taken away from my work environment that I just think is absolutely key is that skills are everything. I have from day one put myself in positions of getting to know people I didn't know, networking, reaching out to people that are on my call list that I know might know something more than I do. I think one thing that I've gotten really good at, or at least improved on, I should say, one thing I've improved on, I'm not really good at it, but I'm improving, is my ability to say, I don't know. That was something I struggled with for so many years in corporate America. Like, I always felt like if I said I didn't know, I was put into this category of weak or worthless, that I didn't deserve to be on the team if I said I didn't know. And I've come to a place in my career and also in my personal life where identifying the fact that I don't know something also kind of becomes empowering, because now I'm acknowledging the fact that I don't know something, and I'm giving myself a goal. I'm giving myself a place to start to learn that information, or to start researching that topic. And so that's something that I think is really important that I've gotten from my work life and transitioned into homesteading. So I ask myself often, coming from this place of I want to be this successful businesswoman, corporate America, corner office in the big city, to becoming this 30-something-year-old woman of thinking, I just want a house on some property. I want some animals. I want to raise my babies. I want to raise my family close to home, and share what I really feel like are the values of life. I want to learn skills that make me independent. Where did that come from? How did I go through that transition? And quite simply, the answer is it happened so slowly, but at the same time, it happened all at once. I've always, my entire life, had this yearning for creativity and independence. And that was initially all I knew when I was younger, was just the concept of creativity and the concept of doing it independently and bettering myself somehow from that. But that is a very vague statement. And as a child or a young teen, I did not know what to do with that, right? And so I kind of experimented with different avenues, and sometimes they just burnt out, like I just lost interest, or sometimes it hit a brick wall and I was like, this is not the direction I want to go in. And eventually, I would say in my later 20s, I started identifying what it was like to start making my own stuff. And I think a lot of that had to do with when I moved out and I was on my own. I was cooking for myself for the first time. I was having to, fix things to a certain extent. Most of the time I still called dad, but I was responsible for myself and my surroundings, and I was on my own. At this point, I was living by myself. So there was a lot of just freedom in the concept that I could learn to do these things because it was easier for me to figure it out than it would be to call and wait on somebody else to do it. From that, it just kind of developed into this infatuation with just learning how to do things on my own. I love the concept of it. Learning information or quirky things that other people either don't know or like those styles have been lost is just enriching to my soul. Like that is my hobby of life. So basically I wanted to spend some time with you guys today to talk to you a little bit, give you a little insight into what the other side of my life looks like. If you are in the position where you are homestead dreaming, but you are still stuck in a position that seems quite the opposite of where your goals are, just stand true and know that there is a plan. God has a plan for you. And sometimes all of this is meant to be and is happening exactly the way that it should. Like I said, if I didn't have this as my full-time job, even though this is what I end up spending the large majority of my time in my life on, I would not have my homestead at all to be able to spend my free time in. So I see value in it that way. I would much rather have my homestead on my free time than not have it at all. Stay true, stay faithful. There is a plan. It will happen for you if you just stick to it. If you feel like you are caught up in a similar situation, please comment below. I would love to connect with some people and just let you guys know that you're not alone. And sometimes homesteading looks like this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon.